I still remember the night I met her, not because of how she looked, but because the world suddenly went quiet. Everything stopped. It felt like the universe pressed pause just to let me see her. She wasn't a part of my plan. I was chasing stars, building machines to touch the edge of space, dreaming in equations, living in silence. And then she spoke. A single sentence, simple, human, and for the first time in years, I forgot about rockets and remembered what it meant to feel. They say light travels fastest in the universe, but love, it travels deeper. She wasn't like anyone I had met. She didn't ask about the future. She asked if I was happy. No one had asked me that in years. And in that small question, I saw something larger than all my dreams. A home, not a place, but a presence. That night when I looked at the stars, they looked different. Not just dots of light, but pieces of a promise. I didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of the one thing I could never forget. Dream. They're beautiful until they start costing you everything. I thought I could hold both, her hand in the stars. But you can't touch the sky without letting go of something that keeps you on the ground. The nights grew longer. My calls grew shorter. And her silence became the loudest sound in my life. She once said, "You can build 1,000 rockets, but if you lose the one who believed in your fire, what's the point of flying?" I laughed then. Now that sentence haunts me. I watched her fade. Not because she stopped caring, but because I stopped noticing. Every success felt emptier, every celebration quieter, because she wasn't there, the one who once stood beside my chaos, and called it love. I told myself I was doing it for her, for us. But maybe I was only doing it for me. Distance isn't measured in miles. It's measured in moments you never shared. And somewhere between the launch pads and late nights, I lost her, not in a breakup, not in anger, but in silence, the kind that slowly steals the color from your world. She was still alive, but in my story, she had already become a memory. People think silence means peace, but silence is where the loudest storms live. After she left, the world didn't end. It just stopped making sense. The lab lights still glowed. The rocket still rose, but nothing felt alive. I used to love the sound of engines. Now it reminded me of her heartbeat. Fast, steady, and gone too soon. You don't realize how much someone holds your world together until they stop being there to listen. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and all that remained was her voice in my head, asking if I was happy. I built faster. I worked harder. But the more I reached for the stars, the further I drifted from myself. There were nights when I'd look out the window and whisper her name into the dark, as if space itself might answer. "You chose the sky," she once said. "Just don't forget to look back at the ground sometimes." I didn't listen. And that's what hurts most. Not losing her, but realizing I let her go. Because the truth is, she didn't walk away. I pushed her away with every, "I'll call you later," and every dream I put above her heart. Now, when people ask what I regret most, I don't talk about rockets that failed or companies that collapsed. I talk about her, the one I couldn't forget, the silence that became my only companion. Time doesn't heal everything. It just teaches you how to breathe through the pain. Years passed. The world called me successful, but every victory felt incomplete. One night, while watching another rocket rise into the sky, I realized something. I wasn't chasing stars anymore. I was chasing peace. And peace had her face. I didn't know where she was, or if she even thought of me. But I felt her. In every quiet moment, in every beam of light that touched my window. Love doesn't vanish. It transforms. From presence into purpose, from person into power. I began writing again. Not code, not equations, but letters I'd never send. Every word was a whisper to her, telling her I was sorry and thankful. Sorry for the distance, thankful for the light, because if she hadn't walked away, I would have never learned what truly mattered. She once asked me if machines could feel. Back then, I said no. Now I know. It's not machines that can't feel, it's people who forget how to. And that night, when the sky burned bright with another launch, I didn't look at the rocket. I looked at the stars, and I smiled. Because somewhere out there, in the infinite dark, I knew she was watching too. The world remembers success, but the heart, It remembers love. They say time moves on, but some moments stay forever. Years later, I returned to the place where I first met her. The same coffee shop, the same light through the window, the same empty chair. I sat there quietly, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone, because she was still there. Not in body, but in everything I had become, every invention, every launch, every sleepless night. Carried a piece of her. She was the reason I believed the impossible could be built, not because she stayed, but because she believed before anyone else did. And I finally understood. Love isn't about holding someone forever. It's about being changed by them forever. I looked up at the sky that night, the same stars that once witnessed our first hello, and whispered, I couldn't forget you, because you were never meant to be forgotten. The sky shimmered, not because it answered, but because it remembered too. Some people come into your life to stay. Others come to remind you that love was never meant to end. It only changes form, from a person, to a purpose, to a light that never fades. And as the engines roared one more time, I smiled, not with pain, but with peace. Because finally, I wasn't chasing stars anymore. I was thanking them. I couldn't forget her.